Let's move into step 5. So we've agreed we're going to use reciprocal teaching. That's a strategy with a really substantive effect size. We love that as a strategy. We're going to use it across content areas. But what we also know is that, we might implement reciprocal teaching in really, really different ways. So my question to you is, when we're implementing reciprocal teaching, what are the teachers in the room doing while that strategy is happening? And what are the students in the room doing while that strategy is happening, okay? So let's start with the teachers. And Cedric, if you can help us out here, what are the teachers doing while reciprocal teaching is being implemented?
Facilitating the steps, like what do they need to do?
Good, so facilitating the steps. So walk me through the steps one more time. Step 1 is? Predict. Good, so they're making sure the kids are making predictions. Good, so you know what, Cedric, you can probably, if you wouldn't mind putting that up there for both students and teachers. Making sure kids are making predictions. What else are teachers making sure?
Clarify.
Good. Teachers are clarifying. Good. What are the students doing during the clarify section?
They're looking for words or phrases that are unclear to them that they need.
Good. So the students at that time will be seeking out unfamiliar vocabulary and ideally asking clarifying questions. Good. Anything else happening during the clarify section?
Teachers monitoring.
Good. The teacher's monitoring.
Deciding, are you going to do individual, partner?
Okay.
Are they going to talk about words they don't know?
Very good, very good. Okay, so where are they going to get those definitions from? Is the teacher going to have them go out and seek out those definitions from an outside source? Is the teacher going to provide those definitions to them? How do we want to do that?
I think the teacher should help clarify in the moment right then to make this effective.
Other thoughts?
Or let students clarify. If they know, if another student in the classroom knows, then they could clarify.
Yeah,
Sure.
I might say a mix of those two things would be really smart. Otherwise, sending kids out to outside resources to try to find those definitions is just going to make the process really slow and really cumbersome. It might just kind of bog us down. Okay, good. I like that. What about if there are words that the teacher knows are in there that students might trip up over, but they don't bring up those words? Are you going to call those out for them, or are you just going to count on them exclusively?
Yeah.
We'll call them out.
Okay, good. So the teacher should be seeking out some potentially unfamiliar words on behalf of the kiddos as well. All right, good. So we've got predict, we've got clarify, and the third step is
Question.
question, right? Who's asking the questions?
The students.
Students, right? So in reciprocal teaching, the students should be asking the questions, all right? So under students, we need to make sure that they're asking questions, and we want them to ask a single question, ask multiple questions. What are your thoughts?
Three questions.
Okay, so we want the kids to ask at least 3 questions.
I think one of those questions needs to be an inferring,
Okay,
because that's the skill
good,
we're
good.
working on.
So
At least one.
the kids are going to develop at least 3 questions. One of those questions must be an inference question.
And then a detailed question.
Very good. A
Something
detailed
they can
question.
pull right from
Something they can pull directly from the text. Thoughts on that?
And then the third one could be
their
choice.
choice.
Third
yeah.
one is one of their choosing. Okay, great. I think that's smart because those first 2 feed directly back into the standard as well. Okay. Is the go ahead.
teacher needs to, the time, so monitor time management, pacing, so it doesn't take too long and they lose interest or you kind of lose the students.
Good. Teachers working really hard on the pacing, all right, to make sure time management is spot on. Good. So we've got predict, we've got clarify, we've got question, and then what's the last step in the reciprocal teaching process?
Summarize.
Summarize. Good. Who's providing the summary?
Students.
Students. Students are providing the summary. So making sure students provide a summary. And what's the summary part sound like? Do you want them to write a paragraph for a summary? Do you want sentences for summaries? Do you want multiple word summaries? Or do you want it to change? Do you want to have the latitude to do multiple summary types over time? Do we need to align on that? Do those need to be the same? Thoughts?
I think doing like the short, like 5-7 word summary would help the students to become a lot more succinct with their summarizing and choose those words that are most important.
Okay. Okay, so
In the summary.
we can put that, we can kind of put that into our tool belt. So like the 5 to 7 word summary is something we can do. What else? Any just exclusively verbal summaries?
I think accountability goes up a little bit when they have to write it down. Even if they're sharing out verbally, I think at least if they write it down, the teacher can monitor that they're doing something and not just going, oh, I'm thinking of an answer.
Okay, so let's
Mine
make,
was the exact same as his was.
Right.
yeah, so let's make sure we make that distinction in terms of what teachers are asking of students. So teachers are requiring that the summary, whatever it looks like, is a written version of the summary, and so obviously for students that they'll be writing that summary. Can we just make that distinction? Are we okay to do single sentence summaries or multi-sentence summaries? Yeah, we just put that into our tool belt. I don't think we need to align so much on that. What about what they'll be reading? Do we want to make sure that all of what they'll be reading is the same, or do we want to make sure, or do we want to kind of differentiate based on preference, content area, things of that nature?
I don't think it needs to be the same in each of our classrooms. I think the Lexile probably needs to be considered depending. If I'm giving my entire class a third grade level passage and they're giving sixth grade, that's gonna not really give us a clear picture of this strategy and if it's effective or not.
Okay.
So fourth grade content, but class to class depending on what you're teaching.
Okay,
The
good.
materials you have.
Good. So teacher is seeking out Lexile level appropriate text. But what I'm hearing from you is that those texts don't always have to be the same. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's probably smart because otherwise I think that would be a nightmare to try to coordinate to make sure everyone has the same text all the time. That's going to take time that we just don't have. Okay, so let's kind of recap for just a second. Cedric, will you bring us back to the top? So, what I'm hearing is that RL 4.1 is the standard our kids are struggling on. Refer to details and examples in a text when explaining what the text says explicitly and when drawing inferences from the text. We know that approximately 95% of our kids as of right now are not proficient in this standard, but we can help them with that. We think if we take 12 days and really focus on the skills of pulling details from a text and drawing inferences from a text, we can move the needle as much as 70% for the entire cohort. We think we can move 100% of our proficient kids to advanced, 50% of our basic kids to proficient, and 60 to 70% of our kids from below basic to basic. The strategies that we've identified to use for this are reciprocal teaching, and we're going to use reciprocal teaching across multiple content areas, specifically science and social studies. In order to make reciprocal teaching happen, we know that teachers are going to have to be facilitating the steps of the reciprocal teaching process, getting kids to predict, getting kids to clarify. We know that teachers are going to be monitoring and providing definitions and also calling on students to providing definitions when we get to the clarity phase. We know that we're going to be asking as teachers for kids to seek out unfamiliar words, even if they don't bring them to our attention. We're going to know in advance what some of those speed bump words are going to be. We also know that the teacher is going to be working on time management to push the process along, and teachers are going to be pushing kids to provide a written summary, and that summary should always be written. We're also knowing that the teacher is going to seek out Lexile level appropriate text for the fourth grade level. Students are also going to be participating in the steps and in large part governing where they take us in terms of the steps of the reciprocal teaching process. Students are going to be making predictions. They're going to be seeking out vocabulary that needs clarification. They're going to be asking questions, and what we know is we want them to ask at least 3 questions. One that's an inference question, one that requires them to call out an explicit detail from the text, and one that's a question of their own choosing. We also know that we want kids to write a summary. Those can be 5 to 7 word summaries. Those can be single sentence summaries. It's entirely up to the teacher in the moment. What we are concerned about is making sure that those summaries are written, and we're also hoping, obviously, that the students are reading and working and speaking in elbow partnerships or shoulder partnerships as necessary. Anything else?
Do we want to put in our notes students are in pairs, just as a reminder?
Yeah, let's go ahead and put it in our notes. Thank you. Let's put it in our notes just as a reminder that students are working in pairs for a number of these steps, especially in the clarifying and questioning section. Great. Thank you.
Do we
Fine.
need to say anywhere that this is cross-curricular or not? Is that just implied?
Highlighted.
Have we said anywhere that it's cross-curricular?
Yeah,
Cedric,
Yeah, it
can you
was
help us?
highlighted.
Okay.
Do we have it up there as cross-curricular? There we go.
Yes.
Yep, up in
Okay.
our strategies, we've included that this is cross-curricular specifically for social studies and science. Good question, though. Good clarification. And we have about 12 days. right? We'll reconvene in 12 days and we'll make sure we design our common formative assessment or our short cycle assessment 6 days from now in our next PLC meeting. We'll design that short cycle assessment, we'll give it 12 days from now, and we'll see how we did. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Sound good?